Good evening, TZR faithful, and welcome to the very first episode of Zero Interruptions, a show about video games and figuring out whose opinion is the most right. I am your host, Dave Ortuso, and let's get right down to the rules, shall we? At the beginning of each video, I will pose a question. Something that's like, what's the best JRPG ever made? Or what's the worst console ever? Contestants will be given roughly 1 to 3 minutes to state their case, and at the end of it all, you, the TZR faithful, will vote for the winner, which will be announced on the next episode. The contestant with the winning answer will receive 3 points. The second place will get 1 point, with everyone after that getting nothing. The contestant with the most points at the end of Season 1 will be crowned the right opinion. So without further ado, here are this week's contestants. First up, proud standard bearer of the PC Master Race and known for his random quotes that nobody understands, coming from the better side of Niagara Falls, Mr. Frank NOSIC. Next up, fighting game fanatic and known for beginning most of his sentences with the word bro, I hope he's forgotten about me challenging him to a game of Mario Kart a few months ago, Justin SCERBO. And the final contestant, currently obsessed with Destiny 2 and known for speaking in the third person, he grows a mighty beard as he prepares for his retirement career as a shopping mall Santa Claus. It's Dave, or it's me, guys. I'm the final contestant. All right, the contestants are in and the audience is in. So without further delay, gentlemen, my question to you is this. Which Nintendo console is the best? Starting with Frank.
The Super Nintendo is by and large the greatest console that Nintendo has ever made. Not only was it a stunning technical achievement for its time, as its capabilities represented a dramatic technical leap forward over from the previous 8-bit generation of consoles, but it also marked the beginning of what was to become Nintendo's creative peak in terms of game production. The sheer power of the SNES not only allowed Nintendo, but many of their third-party developers as well, to take advantage of its hardware and put out some of the greatest and most beloved games ever. These developers underwent a creative revolution, and it was thanks to the marvel that was the SNES that solidified companies like Squaresoft, Capcom, Rare, and Konami as household names. I'm talking about your Final Fantasy VI's and your Chrono Triggers. I'm talking about your Super Castlevania 4s and your Mega Man X's. I'm talking about your Donkey Kong Countries, your Links to the Pasts, and your Super freaking Mario Worlds. Have you ever noticed that out of all of Nintendo's consoles, it's the SNES library that has aged the most gracefully? These games struck a perfect balance between the limitations of the hardware and the capacity of their own creative visions. Every game looks just as the developers intended them to, with lots of bright colors and detailed sprites at their disposal. Even the ugly games on the SNES look good. It was like night and day compared to the limited palettes that the NES offered and the horribly grotesque ugly polygons of the N64. And by the time Nintendo figured out how to make good-looking 3D games with the GameCube, they were certainly unable to match the much more robust and extraordinary lineup of games the SNES had to offer. Nintendo hit a creative plateau with the SNES. Compare the number of SNES games that appear on the top whatever lists to the GameCube ones, and you'll see what I mean. If the NES was the granddaddy of modern console gaming, then the SNES is that cool uncle that you idolized as a kid. You know the one. The one who was the most fun to hang out with all the time and that gave you all the best gifts during Christmas. I don't know about you, but I know I'd rather get Transformers and those lightsabers that make the sound effects from the movies instead of ugly sweaters and black socks.
Really, Frank? You're gonna go with the SNES? Fine. Pick the one that sold the best and had one of the most iconic libraries in gaming. It's fine. It's fine. I still think the GameCube is better. The GameCube era was an interesting time in Nintendo's history, coming off of the relative success of the Nintendo 64, but not quite reaching the success of the original PlayStation. Nintendo decided it was time to get creative, and not creative like the Nintendo 64 controller that was designed for someone with 3 hands. Actually, for the controller, Nintendo went with a radically different design than its predecessor, and it's still highly regarded as one of the best controllers ever made. In fact, it is still in such high demand that Nintendo put out an adapter recently so that the controller can be used in Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U. Not only that, but the Nintendo GameCube era was the first time period in gaming where there was a mass market adoption of wireless controllers, in the form of the Wavebird controller. Nintendo also took a lot of creative liberties with its IPs during the GameCube era. Games like Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Sunshine, and The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker were all seen as significant departures from their previous games in the series, and were all received very well. Not only that, but groundbreaking games were released, like Metroid Prime, which is the 4th installment in development for the Switch as we speak, and of course Super Smash Bros. Melee, a game that is still played competitively today. adding in awesome third-party titles like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Bloody Roar Primal Fury, Super Monkey Ball, Eternal Darkness, Skies of Arcadia Legends, Beautiful Joe, and of course the almighty Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, the Nintendo GameCube had a pretty awesome lineup of games. While it may not have had the popularity of the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo GameCube had creativity, style, and it had thumbsticks.
No, guys, you've got it all wrong. Listen, I know that the SNES and the GameCube had some of the greatest Nintendo and third-party titles ever created, but I think what you guys are seeing in nostalgia, we should be looking for in potential. And that's why my pick for Nintendo's best console is none other than the Nintendo Switch. I mean, look at this thing! This console is Nintendo marrying its devotion to fun and one of, if not the most successfully applied innovations in gaming we have seen to date. This device truly delivered on its promise of taking console-quality experiences on the go, without skimping on fidelity or experience. This console just feels amazing to hold, and with all of its different setups, it makes it one of the most versatile consoles for playing solo or with friends. Look, we all know that the games make the console, but when I think of my most fun Nintendo experiences, I think about when me and my friends would get together, curl around the TV, and have some laughs playing our favorite games. The Switch is Nintendo doubling down on that feeling, and sets us up to have more and more experiences like that, especially through the use of things like tabletop mode and the half Joy-Con setup. Now that doesn't mean they're skipping on games either. When your console launches with something like Breath of the Wild, you know Nintendo's trying to make an impression. And then to follow that up with the likes of Mario Kart, Splatoon, and a new 3D Mario coming out, I mean, come on. Come on. Look, when it's all said and done, the SNES and the GameCube had their time to shine and brought us some of the greatest gaming experiences of all time. But I would venture to say that Nintendo is at their best right now. And with a novel console like the Switch, I think years from now we'll be looking back at this time and thinking to ourselves, man, that was the best Nintendo console ever.
Alrighty, TZR faithful, you have heard the points, now it's time to decide. Which Nintendo console was the best? Do you agree with Frank about the SNES? Do you agree with me about the GameCube? Or do you agree with Justin about the Switch? Please leave a comment in the section below to vote for the winner, which will be announced on the next episode. Until then, thank you for watching, and please subscribe to see more Zero Interruptions.